friends. You have found us on the podcast. Don't let Haboob hit you in the face. And for those of you that are in the greater Phoenix area, you know what I'm talking about. Over my shoulder here was a dust storm last summer, 65 miles wide, 1 mile tall. And it swallowed up most of the valley one afternoon. The crazy thing is most of us went to work that morning, didn't know it was coming. Maybe we missed some of the signs, I don't know. But in the 25 years I've worked with families who have been trying to navigate the complexities of the long-term care issues that surround their loved ones, they often feel like this wall of dirt wipes them out and takes them for a ride and knocks them off guard. And life can feel that way when the seasons of life, the issues, the signs that are happening around our loved ones may be missed, may be ignored. We put our heads in the sand, whatever. But too many times I've walked into crisis with families. With my work at the Options for Senior Living business for the last 25 years, we've helped families navigate and guide them through those challenges, often leading us to some kind of senior living environment or getting care in the home. But my world is surrounded by a lot of friends and a lot of other professionals that come from various verticals and various categories. And so today I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine, David Griffin, with Compass Realty, Compass Plus. And David, you help families navigate some of these very same waters and help them in their real estate processes, don't you? Good to have you today, man.
I do. Thanks, Scott. Thanks so much for the invitation. It's so funny. When, as a professional working in this space and with families and older adult children, when you come across a contemporary and get to sit down, maybe over a glass of wine, and have these meaningful conversations with somebody who gets it, because there's so much that we don't talk about when it comes to aging older adults, and it's just nice to know that there's other people out there that are on the same path, that are looking to try and educate and find solutions and live better.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I was listening to a broadcast of a colleague of mine from California who owns a home care company, and she was getting ready to launch a national TV show, and she was talking about aging isn't the problem. Like, people have been aging since the beginning of time. It's what do we do with it as the adult kids? What do we do? We're being asked to do a job sometimes, David, you've been down this road, where we had no training, we had no backup, we had very little support, various levels of support from our siblings, if you have siblings, and there's no guide. You said it before we came on and hit play this morning. Nobody gave us a manual as the adult child to go, here, do this with your mom. And so it's quite a ride, isn't it?
It really is. And it's funny. Going down the older adult rabbit hole was a personal journey for me. I'm 63. We'll get that on the table right away.
I just joined you last week at 63. I just crossed over.
So, to a 30 or a 40-year-old, I'm old. To an 85-year-old, they call me kid. So I feel like I'm in a good place to straddle a couple generations. But, we all kind of are exposed to this in my business. I've had clients where I've done 3 generations of their family as far as buying and selling homes. We tend to get the phone calls when something bad has happened, when it's approaching a crisis state. And, in my own personal life, going through this with my mother, who I lost a year ago, thought that I was pretty good at all of this until you actually go through it. And, I kind of reflected and said, well, when did I start with this? And I think for me, it was 10 years ago when I got diagnosed with pancreatic and lung cancer. And I was sitting in I did.
You did?
I did. And the crazy thing was, I'm sitting in an oncologist, and it was a client who was a doctor that had been my client for probably 10 years, who said, you need to come in and see me. Brilliant internist, said, I want to personally check you out, which it took me a couple of years to process that. But went in, they found a little something with my EKG that they didn't like, sent me to a cardiologist, did all the testing. It came back fine. They said, we want you to get a calcium score and see if there's any buildup in your arteries and, get a better picture. And they said, but here's the kicker. Insurance isn't going to pay for it. But year of an age, I was 53 at the time. We want to come up with a longevity plan. First time I'd heard that word. So, we really want you to go do this. And I was just like, well, what does it cost? They told me what it costs. And my cardiologist, Dr. Rashdouni, love him, said, if it was your car brakes, would you get them fixed? So he basically shamed me into getting a calcium score. But the calcium score, the MRI with contrast, led to a radiologist reading it. They found a spot on my lung, a spot on the tip of my pancreas, got diagnosed with multi-stage pancreatic and lung cancer. They said the first thing is we got to go in and operate and take out the tail of your pancreas and biopsy it. Long story short, technically I'm smarter than Steve Jobs because we both had the same type of pancreatic cancer. He went to India and did holistic healing and food. I put together a team and had surgeries, 2 back-to-back surgeries about 6 weeks apart. Wound up that it was 2 independent cancers, and I was a surgical option. But I can tell you the moment when they said, get your affairs in order. This is a 6-month to best case scenario, 18-month prognosis. And I sat there and I went, well, I guess I know how I'm going to pass then. I know how this all ends. And never at 53, never thought about the aging process, thought I had plenty of time. And the real key to my success was I had an incredible team behind me. My primary doctor within 72 hours had surgeons scheduled, had consultations because I had to have thoracic surgeons, pulmonary surgeons, all these things. And I didn't know it at the time, but as it kind of sank in, kind of what saved my life was early detection and a great team. We had a plan. We had a path that we could follow. And I've tried to apply that to my business and to my clients of if we can talk about these things before they happen, because aging is going to happen to everybody. Nobody's getting out of here alive. Then, we can head off a lot of the crisis and the stress that older adults and families go through.
Yeah, I talk a lot on these different episodes about normalizing that conversation. As you're saying all this, I'm thinking about your mom. What's your mom feel about all that as you were going through that as still your mother, right? You're quite aware of what was happening.
No, they all were, well, this isn't supposed to happen. We're supposed to go first. And it was my mom and then my aunt and uncle who were like my parents here. And my uncle was a retired pathologist. And I remember telling him the news. And this is while he's planning to leave their longtime home and go into a continuing care community here in Phoenix. And I just remember him taking a deep breath and exhaling and just said, wow, because he knew that kind of diagnosis didn't have a good outcome in most situations. But the stress that it put on them, but when someone says get your affairs in order, I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I have to give my wife my passcodes and account numbers, and do we have a power of attorney? Do we have medical directives? What are my end of life wishes at 53?
Yeah. That's a hard one. When things personally rock our world, it's usually when we get to the other side of it, or we get that it affects how we do things going forward. It sounds like this has led to some lasting reinvestment of you into these spaces that you operate your business from, right?
Yeah, business, my personal relationships.
Family, your kids and stuff.
Anybody who will let me bend their ear about, what, it's great to have goals and it's great to say someday I'm going to retire. I'm going to go to, this is what my life is going to be like. But if you don't put a plan behind it, if you don't know how you're going to get there, and that's really what I've really been focusing on is how do we help people understand that it's a process and that your greatest asset is having the right people and the right resources surrounding you. Yeah. And it goes for principals and older adult children.
When we talked, and I'm thinking about what you shared with me when we were sitting together a few weeks ago, and there's a video on it. I'm going to make sure that Molly puts the link to that it's your YouTube channel, I think.
Right.
With the Pando Path, you talk about this system. Talk about that a little bit, and I think that means a lot to everything you're saying. Yeah.
When you've got too much time on your hands and you look at a massive problem like this and go, well, what's the current state of play? How is this working for everybody? And right now, except for, a limited number of professionals like yourself and people that you interact with, this is uncharted territory. And knew that I was very interested. I knew that it was something that affected my clients and their families. And I wanted to be able to not just market it and have a hook, as they call it, but
Right.
can I articulate what it is that I do and what it is that they need to do? And I started looking around for ways to communicate that. And I started Googling what's the oldest living organism on the planet. And it comes back Methuselah, the giant sequoia. There's a bunch of them, but the one that really stood out to me was the Pando aspen grove in Utah. Somewhere between 10 and 80,000 years old. They can't put an exact number on it because it's very unique in that it's got this shared root system. It's about 100-acre stand of aspens. Technically, I think they call it colonial, that it's really one organism, but it's got this vast root system that allows it to thrive and regenerate. And I thought, well, that's just a great way to look at, how do we take our deep roots and figure out new beginnings? And that interconnectivity of, I do real estate. I've done a lot of complex real estate, but I'm not a placement specialist. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an elder law attorney. I needed to, one, come up with a process. And the process really is P is the plan. At some point you need to decide what it is you want to do, where you want to go, and have those conversations with family and people in your orbit. The next thing is, and going off of my medical team, is you need to put a team together. If you try and do it yourself, you try and go online and Google it, but find out the people that are going to be able to help and assist you and basically take co-ownership of this whole process. And then it goes to, once you put together your team, you need to go out and really navigate the process, and if that's, you're looking for where you want to move to, you need to go out and look at them. You need to ask questions. If it's a legacy plan that you're looking for, you need to talk to an estate attorney. You need to talk, but you need to actually go out then and start looking for the solutions. And then you need to decide. You need to deploy. You need to pull the trigger. You need to actually make that move, but you're going to make it because you know that you've already done the legwork. You've already asked the right questions and asked, what's the upside, what's the downside. And then the last thing is that it's an ongoing process, that stay in touch with all of those people because life changes. And, you may need to adjust a will or a trust. You may need to adjust your living situation. It's, kind of staying flexible with a purpose and then, leaning on the people when you need them. So that's my Pando path.
I love that. I love that. I think in pictures, obviously look behind me.
Right.
I think in metaphors and pictures all the time. My wife looks at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, if you just think of it this way. And she's just like, but it helps me operationalize all the thinking that I do about all of this. One of the things that I think is concerning, or should concern, if you're a professional listening to this should concern you. If you are in the adult child space, like David and I are in this age group, this should concern you. And here's the reality. A lot of the industries that touch families who are in transition, those families are vulnerable. Those families are under pressure. Those families are often in crisis. There's decision-making that's impaired because of cognitive impairment. It doesn't mean they're incapacitated, but there's impairment. And so there's vulnerability with all of that to be said. A lot of us come from industries that there's well-intended people who don't know what they're doing. There are well-intended people who do know what they're doing and have the right credentials and training and education. There are a lot of opportunistic people. Can we say it that way, David? Where people don't have the best intentions. They don't. And so to protect you from those opportunistic people, or those people who are well-intended but don't know what they're doing yet, it's been my crusade for almost 15 years, Dave. In my placement industry, we don't have any licensure. At least in real estate, you get a license to do what you do. Well, there's no licensure to guide people. So there's a lot of bad stuff that goes down and can go down. So we've established some local trade association for best practices and code of ethics to do some legislative initiatives. We've done it on a national level. You guys at Compass, what did you guys do with Compass Plus? Because your leadership and you're part of that, like, man, if we're going to get into this deep water with families, shouldn't we have some more oomph to be able to help those folks, right?
100%. Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate in that a couple of years ago, a group of us within Compass nationally got together and identified that, hey, our clientele, our customers are aging, and the population is aging. We know the stats. It's it's coming, it's here, it's going to be happening for a while. It's not going away. And what we wanted to do was really kind of formalize, okay, how do we work with older adults? What are the specific things when it comes to staying in a current home? I mean, we always tell people, know what you own and know what you owe. But when it comes to a house, can your house support a safe lifestyle for you long term if your goal is to stay in the house? But a group of us got together and decided that we wanted to create a affinity group of agents around the country that dealt with these type of issues and dealt with the professionals that deal with these type of issues. But we didn't want it to be a business card. We didn't want it to be something that was just a title, and like a new suit for appointments. And we looked around at who trains, who messages in the space, who really is a go-to source. And what we found was there are very few go-to sources. There's go-to people, but not a lot of go-to sources.
Right.
National Association of Realtors has an excellent designation called Seniors Real Estate Specialist. I'm one of those. We decided to take it a step further and found the Society of Certified Senior Advisors. And what's different about SCAs is that it is a rigorous training course. I'm a broker. I'm licensed in California. I've got a home inspector's license. I've taken a lot of tests. The senior certified senior advisor was one of the tests that I walked out going, I hope I did well enough to pass. It's 150 questions. It's a 3-hour exam. It covers the entire spectrum.
When you sign up for this course, you get textbook, you get books,
you get
books,
6.
content.
It's 20 pounds of books.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
But what they also do is they do a background check. They have continuing education that you need to do. They've got an ethics module. And they really are the only organization like that we could look at and go, okay, people who are serious about this will do the legwork. They'll take the test, they'll get the background check. It's a membership in that you have to renew, you have to do continuing education. But we really wanted to differentiate between those people that just sell houses and those people that help families accomplish their real estate goals. So we've got 167 fully certified agents across the country, another 160 that are currently taking the training. And it's given us a network. One, for me, just like what you're doing, I have a lot of great conversations and I hear things that I wouldn't have heard otherwise. But I also have contacts in other markets because a lot of times families are moving interstate. It's not just your backyard. And whether you're buying, selling, you need to plug into your network locally. I mean, I'm just such a huge believer in that. And I think it really facilitates that.
And knowing your lane really well. And so that means what you need or what partners you need around you. Your other colleagues in St. Louis or Duluth or Orlando, Florida would know that as well. So if you're helping family connect to another you, and they're going to have similarly vetted, trusted allies in their world to help them through whatever part of the journey they're in. It's typical, David, when I help a family, it's not just getting placed. It's the mover. It's the move manager. It's real estate. It's benefits specialists with veterans, or Medicaid. I mean, I can have 5 or 6 of my buddies in on any given family who needs something that I only know the right people. I don't do it all, but I do know a lot of folks. And I'm sure that's the way you've got to operate in this space because there's just it's so vast.
Well, and it is funny. I mean, one of the really poignant moments in my journey on this was my mentor in the business is now 91 years old. And we have coffee just about every Friday. And it was about a year and a half ago. I sat down with him and I said, I kind of want to talk to you as my mentor, my friend, my role model, but I also want to talk to you as an older adult. I really want to know what keeps you up at night. You're 90 years old. You've been incredibly successful. He's got a great lifestyle. He's got his health. He doesn't have financial, concerns. And the response somewhat shocked me. because he literally froze and said, I can't believe you asked me that question. I'm up at night because I've got concerns, I've got fears, I've got things that I don't know, what to do with, and I don't want to worry my wife. I don't want to burden my daughter. I don't want to go to my attorney because I don't want them to think that I can't, I can't. He was like, I should be able to figure this out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've realized is sometimes it doesn't matter what type of high performance person you are. You need collaborators. You need that support system to work through the problem. I think you and I talked about the movie The Martian.
Yes, yes.
With Matt Damon.
With Matt Damon, we did.
Yeah, at the end of it, it's really about you solve a problem, then you solve the next problem. And he got back from Mars, but he also had an incredible support system. And part of the movie is about how they put together all the people from Caltech and NASA and everybody else, that it just, it was a group effort, but he had to take that first step and start solving problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And didn't he say something about that? Like, I need to solve the first problem first. I can't get home until I solve the first problem.
Yeah. And if you solve enough problems, you get to where you want to be, which was home.
And that's often the situation I find myself in with families. I've walked into the haboob. I've walked into the mess. I'm sure you've walked into the mess. And I'm like, I'm going to tell, I can see a pathway through this, but today we're going to do 1 and 2. Stop right there. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the next thing.
Right.
So it's incumbent upon us as the guide to know the way home, right? To know the way back. And that's what we ask people to trust us with, is that we're just going to, put you in touch with the right person for the next step, or walk the next step with you in the journey, even if it's up to the point where we have to sell the home or, do something with the real estate. You said the numbers, here in Phoenix, 2020 census numbers had over 160,000 80-year-olds already in Maricopa County,
right.
and 1,000,000 65-year-olds. You and I are not over that fence yet, and we're looking into that number. So we're in the pipe coming to that. And so that's the massiveness of the issue here in our community.
It's the numbers demographically. You look at what's happening, and that we're not replacing generationally. We're not making as many people as we used to.
Right.
So the percentage of aged adults is only going to go up, and they're going to have more impact on society and housing and services. And there's a need across the spectrum for more people to take aging and aging issues seriously.
Yeah. Amen to that. So with Compass Plus and your business, who are you looking to talk to? How do you get your message out to families who might be walking into these spaces and going, oh man, I wasn't thinking selling mom's house would be so complex, or there'd be so many issues. Where's your voice in all that? And how do you like to position that voice of yours?
I think the thing that I think of every day is, how do we get further out in front of these issues?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have these conversations sooner at a more meaningful level? And people love to look and see what the value of their house is. Has my equity gone up? They love watching that number. But I think we need to, one, educate. We need to provide information for people sooner and tell them. Sometimes the message is just, it's okay to have these conversations. It's okay for older adult children to say, let's have a cup of coffee and talk about what your life over the next 10, 15, 20 years is going to look like, and what you want your life to look like. And can we do that in our current house? And if we can, and here's the shocking thing, I was just doing some research this morning. I've been looking for a long time for licensed contractors that will help people retrofit their house, make it safer, make it more utility friendly as we age.
Yeah.
So I went to the National Association of Home Builders, pretty big organization. They've got a designation for this. There are about 20 people in Arizona that have that designation. I could only find one that describes what they do. So just that, if let's say you want to retrofit your house, you want to do a curbless shower, so you can get in and out of the shower easily. It just and you go to the National Association of home builders and you look at this designation and you look at the directory, even finding that person among the 20, and 20 is a very small number for our city.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it's just crazy that there aren't people out there going, when you have these needs, call us, this is what we do.
Yeah. I've got a guy for you. I'll pass you on his name.
Yeah.
I got a guy. But you make a really good point. And there is a national group that we are working with, the national executive director, to bring a chapter here to Phoenix, David. It's called the National Aging in Place Council, the NAIPC. And like the CSAs, they do a background check on their members because, of course, their members are stepping into spaces with vulnerable people, right? And so the National Aging in Place Council is comprised of people from all walks of life, all professions, all industries that serve this aging group of people. And of course, the mission, the message is get to before the crisis, before Haboob. What can we do is to precisely do what you just said, get to having the conversation before the crisis. Your personal testimony was at 53. You don't think you're going to be getting the, hey, get your affairs in order. And so I walk into somebody's home who's 86 years old and they're like, well, one day when I get old, and I'm like, well, what day is that? They haven't thought 20 minutes about what would they like their life to look like in 2 or 3 years. Adult kids have a hard time seeing our parents age. So we're in denial. They have a hard time seeing themselves changing. They're in denial. Our generations have got to get talking better.
Well, and then there's also the generational shift of, the parent takes care of the child, and then the child morphs into more of a caregiver for the parent.
Yeah.
Helping people do that without having elder speak, and there's just a lot of dynamics that go into it. It's a complicated issue, but I think that if you just humanize it and say, what's our current situation? Where are we at now? Where do we need to go? Now let's problem solve it. Let's there are no bad ideas, but let's throw everything out there and then figure out the solutions that fit best.
Yeah. Amen to that. A couple things I wanted to ask you is, what would you wish that more realtors would do in their practice as they're navigating? I mean, there's all these folks that are going to be transitioning. So what would you tell your colleagues about the process?
Be curious, ask questions, network, find the Scotts of the world and go to them like I did and say, I need a sensei. I need someone who's doing this. I want you to tell me if I'm on track, if I'm off track. It's such a collaborative environment that you really have got to put together your own network. You've got to be inquisitive. You've got to ask questions. Use AI, ask ChatGPT. You could do that in the privacy of your own, couch. Technology, I think, is going to play a big part. It's how do we humanize it? So, for my colleagues, I would be like, you know what, really make this your personal crusade, educate yourself and ask questions and go find the people that when you say, let's talk about older adults, they ask the right questions. They understand the dynamics. They understand the human side of it and the just the everyday, fears and what I try and tell people is don't make people the enemy, make situations, procrastination, putting it off, that's the biggest enemy. It's not your brother or sister. It's not that you didn't do something. It's like, what are the barriers to getting this accomplished?
Haboob happens a lot of times because people are thinking about it or they'll get to it at some point in time. And man,
and I'm sure you deal with denial on a regular basis.
I just cannot implore people enough to. A couple more things I wanted to ask you about. Where do you see yourself in the next 4 or 5 years with all this? You've got a vast number of people that are going to need your wisdom and guidance. And so how do you see your voice growing to this large need?
I think it really comes down to information, education, and resources. And, where I see myself is I love this space. I have no plans to retire. I think the longer that I do this, the older that I get, the more gray hair and white hair that I get. I think experience is really one of the key things that you should ask any of the people that are involved in your life making these decisions is real world case studies, stories. Have you seen this before? And there's going to be things that we haven't seen before, but we know who to call. We know who the resources out there are. So I see this growing. It's going to become more and more prevalent. The ability to age in place is finite.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that many people that are fortunate to be in their home for the whole cycle.
If you hire caregivers, it's over 30,000 a month to hire
Right.
a company to come do that. So that's a ton of dough, man. Most families can't date that.
And the physicality. I mean, there are homes that are functionally obsolete that, my wife and I are thinking about, we're not thinking about, we need to redo our bathrooms. My shower is not going to have, my shower is going to be accessible. I wouldn't have thought about it had I not been involved in this space, and they look great and you could do a channel drain, but that will help me do what I want to do, which is stay for as long as I can. And those mindful, planning and decisions, everybody loves to remodel their house. Well, do it with a purpose. Do it with an eye toward the future. That if that's your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a professional, keep your eyes on, and more announcements to come as we launch this National Aging in Place Council, and certainly reach out to me if you are a professional, have an interest in this space with David and I. I think it's an important category to bring to our community, and it's an important element that our community lacks, and I want to be a part of that. That's been my professional MO for 20 years, is try to do things that are out front of the curve, get it in place before we actually need it. Hey, I've got one more question for you. This is going to be off topic just a touch.
Yeah, please hit me.
Because we had a glass of wine and we got to share some things, I was fascinated by some of the things we talked about. But tell me about what brings you joy when you're not at work contemplating how to solve all the life problems.
Well, I mean, my greatest joy is my wife and partner and my 3 boys. I think being a father is the hardest job and the most rewarding job, next to being a son. But I am a little bit obsessed with all things outdoor cooking. If it's wood fired, I do a lot of wood fired foods. Smoking, I cure my own bacon. I do charcuterie. My boys for Christmas got me a pizza oven, so I've started curating my own sourdough. That's how I kind of unplug, and I look at recipes, but I don't follow recipes. I kind of steal from everything and create my own. And that's for me. We were talking before we got on about unplugging and recharging, and it seems to make people happy. So I love to entertain and especially be outside and do it. We live in Arizona, especially in the winter months. It's such a great place to do that kind of thing, especially after coming off the summer where you're locked indoors for 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah, I look forward to this winter after a long summer to do more outdoor cooking myself. I just got a rig to hook up to do some wood cooking in the backyard. I want to build a pit to do it. You said you even got a Santa Maria with the crank and the, oh my gosh.
Well, and you know what? It's funny. I think even in longevity. I mean, I believe that movement is the best thing to keep you young. So keep moving, keep doing, and what you eat and how you eat. And if you're out there, if you take up outdoor grilling and you have these it's your hobby. You're also putting good fuel in your body. It's all part of the longevity is like. Even if it's just the activity of getting outside and doing this, you're doing something. You're not stagnating.
As dad, I love getting my kids, particularly my daughter's husbands, together or my sons together, and they're over cooking or learning to cook together or working together. We're learning each other more. I'm going to need them.
Yeah.
You and I aren't going to be 63 forever, and we're going to need them too. And I want to invest into those relationships, and I think you feel the same way.
Yeah, and I think for those difficult family and much needed conversations, a lot of times over a family dinner is a great time to ask an open-ended question, a cup of coffee, a glass of wine. I mean, it doesn't have to be a mediation session.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be counseling. It can just be, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years, Dad? What would you like to be doing in 7 years? What does your world look like? And ask the questions and then listen.
Yeah. And you come back to what you said earlier, be curious. You said that to your colleagues, but as individuals, it's a great reminder for us, be curious and ask more questions of the people we love as we step into this space. Hey, David, this has been fantastic, man. Thank you for your wisdom and thanks for your friendship. I appreciate this. We're just getting the message out about the podcast. We're 10 or 12 episodes into this thing. I want to be doing this for a number of years and having these conversations with our friends for our community. And so thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you for everything that you do and having the fortitude to push record, a while back and put this out there because it does make a difference. Because from personal experience, you start looking for podcasts, for webinars, for information in this space. It can be overwhelming. It can be daunting. It can be depressing.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you.
And depressed. Well, you could shut down. You could be bombed down. You're just like shut down because you don't know. So we will share this all over the place. Before I get out of here, everybody, several months ago, we started a project here in Phoenix called the Aging Parent Tribe, private Facebook group. If you're a professional that serves this category of people, if you're one of us who's been walking the walk, and the tribe is a place for us to come together in safety, private from the world, to share our journeys. I made a lot of videos this year, David, about the experience of losing my mom, pre and post her passing, the experiences with my brothers. I mean, it's rattled my cage all over the place. And so it was a safe place for me to go and share. A lot of our other tribe members have posted and put videos in. And so if you're watching, listening, go to Facebook, find Aging Parent Tribe Phoenix. We're there for you. We'd love to serve you. And with that, we're going to wrap. David, once again, appreciate this. We'll look forward to another time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.